My next guest is one of a handful of folks who testified during today's State Senate hearing on partnering with Native American tribes. During his testimony, he suggested that the state should be mapping out a long-term economic plan and work with the Oneida Nation because they are committed to staying in New York at the same time that thousands of others are fleeing the state seeking better economic conditions elsewhere. He is Ray Halbritter, representative of the Oneida Nation and CEO of Nation Enterprises. Mr. Halbritter, it's good to see you.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
So first, let's start with this hearing today, which was sort of introductory in nature, but also was historic because it's the first time that there has ever been a body like this. So did you find that satisfying?
Well, it's very important, and as you say, it's historic, and the opportunity for Indian nations in the state to discuss issues like this is critically important, I think, to our state and to our communities. There is a lot that Native American nations have to offer because, for example, our nation, the United Nations, third largest employer in a 16-county central New York region. There are things that we like to consider and we'd like to work with the state on, and I know we can do a lot more to create jobs and opportunity where we live.
To a certain degree also, isn't this one way that you could improve your image, if you will, that people get to see a more positive view? Because in the news, what you read mostly is the tribes are angry with the government about this, the government, and they're fighting about, it's mostly cigarette sales tax, of course, but there's a lot more to the negotiations and the relationship than just that particular issue.
Oh, absolutely, and that's so correct. We have so much more to offer by working together, our state, by working together. And this is what leaders should do. It's not just about taking a position. It's about working together to solve problems. And that's something we were willing to do, and that's something we expressed today, that we've been here since time immemorial. We're going to be here since the end of time. Our commitment is here to this state. This is our land. It's our home. It's what we love.
Mm-hmm. The people who participated, did you feel in some way that you had a very friendly audience? I mean, for example, Senator George Mazars, who set this up, has been working with you for many years, whereas there was not a representative at the table, at least that I know of, on the dais, if you will, from the governor's office. And of course it takes three folks in this particular instance to make long-term policy decisions. Yeah, usually you do deal with a lot of the negativity, and now is the chance, I think, for us all to talk about what can happen, what can be done. So the Indian nations now are, the Seneca Nation was represented, the Mohawk Nation was represented. They're all large employers. They all have a commitment to stay in this state. They're not going to go someplace else. The profits not going to be funneled to shareholders all around the globe. And these are nations that are committed to the state for the long term. So it makes great sense to sit down and talk about what can we do productively to help the state, especially this time of economic insecurity. But it also comes at a time when just this morning there's a Quinnipiac poll out about the issue of non-Indian gaming. It's not the first poll that's been out on this topic. This is now something that has been heating up. I think it's probably going to be a big issue in 2012. Your position obviously is opposed. Well, look, it's no surprise to me that New Yorkers would favor at this time of economic insecurity something that would help the desperate situation we're in this state. I do think there are great alternatives with Indian nations to productively work towards helping produce other opportunities. And we're taught to think in terms of looking forward towards the seventh generation. So we're thinking in long term. Also that these multinational, if you commercialize gaming in the state, these companies, we don't want to turn New York State into another Atlantic City. I mean, we hopefully have learned from that, and that the promises of commercialized gaming aren't always fulfilled. And I think when people find out more about what this entails, what it really does, you don't have to look very much further than Atlantic City. But that's one of the reasons why there's the process of having two successive legislatures decide with an intervening election, decide this issue, and then a public referendum. I think there's going to be an opportunity for people to really think about this and really make a wise decision. What might an alternative be? For example, what could you and the Seneca and other tribes do to perhaps jumpstart the economy in lieu of non-Indian gaming elsewhere? Well, we have a commitment, as I said, to this region, to this state in the long term. The state already passed legislation that would allow for 3 gaming
opportunities in Catskills.
Right.
They failed to have been able to bring that about, and I think there's an opportunity there to expand that allows the state to participate more financially and allows the opportunity to develop, but with it being controlled. And uncontrolled, unchecked, commercialized gaming, I think, in the state is something that may not be, you'd be looking at short-term gains but long-term costs.
But explain to me what the difference is between a casino that is run on tribal land and a commercial enterprise of the sort that you're denigrating really at this moment.
Well, first of all, the commercialized gaming shareholders are from all over the globe. We Indian nations are here for the long term. We're not going anywhere. I can make that as a guarantee. Our people are not going to be going to some other country when the grass looks greener economically there. These enterprises are going to be here solely for profits. They might come from Asia, they might come from Las Vegas or Atlantic City. They're all the same players.
But some of the profit and that revenue does come into state coffers.
Oh yes, some does.
Okay.
For us here, that's right, some does. But all of the revenues we have, and in addition, we are governments. We are governments that all of the revenue goes to help benefit our people for the long term. And it's invested right in the regions where we live, and it will always be that way for the long term. So commercialized gaming interests, those profits are going to be funneled off to shareholders wherever they may be. So that's a difference. And as a government, we're doing things that we're able to do for ourselves that have not been done for centuries. We're able to take care of our people. The Oneida people were reduced to 32 acres of land. We had 80% unemployment. We now are able to employ, we're the third largest employer in a 16-county central New York region. We put almost $1 billion into the ground. So we have over $125 million payroll. We have over $300 million in vendor spending every year. This is an incredible amount of money that's going to go back into that. Those profits are going to stay here in the state, and that's what's best about doing it this way. What's
the percentage, though, of the folks that you employ who are not members?
About 90% of our employee workforce are non-native. Many people are even there's a refugee center in Utica. We have many people that are refugees from around the globe that actually work. We're practically United Nations. We also won an award from the ARC because we have people who are challenged in other ways that also are high employment at our place. We have mothers and daughters, fathers and sons. There's great upward mobility. We do a great deal of benefits. We do tuition incentives for our people. We have retirement for our people, health coverage for all our employees. It's a wonderful place to work with great upward mobility.
Do you see any way that you could support some modicum, some piece of non-Indian gaming outside?
Well, I'm just simply saying that with investing with the time to sit down with Indian nations, there are alternatives. There's renewable energy opportunities, and there are other opportunities that we would seek to be diversifying that commercialized gaming wouldn't. They would look to simply expand the ability to reap as much profit as they could from this state. I mean, we've seen this in Atlantic City. There's no reason to think that's going to turn out differently, whereas Indian nations, as governments, are going to be looking to invest in things that are not just, we're already diversifying. We have 4 directions production, we have movie-making opportunities, and that can be developed and enhanced if working cooperatively with the state. There are 10 economic councils that were formed by the state, and not one Indian nation was invited or is participating in those councils. Why is that? Why isn't that discussion taking place? And that discussion that happened today is not only historic, it's what needs to be done to make the best of this.
Well, why is that, do you think?
Well, that's a good question. It's a question for the administration, the people who did it that way.
Is it prejudicial?
But I don't know. I mean, why not? Why wouldn't we? We're the 3rd largest employer in our region, as is the St. Regis Mohawk. The Senecas are the 5th largest in their region, as I understand it. But yet, in that stature, we were not even asked to be part of the economic discussion for the benefit of the state and our communities where we live. And we've been here since time immemorial. I don't understand why. I mean, we understand the slights of not being invited. Everybody does.
Right.
It's not a secret. But we were not invited, and we think that the discussion is important to take place.
Do you think it is because, and unfortunately we're about to run out of time, but I do want to ask this question, do you believe it's because the relationship between the Indian nations and the administration is not fantastic?
Well, I think it can be better, and I think through discussion and meeting having that dialogue is what's going to be best, not only for the Indian nations, but for our community and for the state itself.
Are you scheduled at all to meet with the governor?
At this point, we have no schedule to meet.
Interesting. Okay, well, Mr. Halbritter, it is good to see you in the studio. I appreciate it, and thanks for coming by.
Well, thanks very much.